guys, Caleb here, back again with more Red Knot, and this time we have 2 a.m. at the Cat's Pajamas, which is a novel, by the way. Did you know that was a novel? It's a novel. By Marie-Helene Bertino. And the caption on here says, "Clever, charming, and full of life. A marvel of the unexpected. A buoyant, swinging tale of interwoven destinies that Marie-Helene Bertino tells with verve, wit, and warmth. I love it. Maggie Shipstead, author of Astonish Me." So the cover of this is really cool and stylish. It's basically like this blue background, and then there's snow on the cover falling, and you can see a cityscape here at the top with stars and a moon. In between the title and the author's name is silhouette. Well, not really silhouettes, but like, it looks like those kind of paper cutouts with, like paper people, and that you've pasted them on the cover together from different types of paper. And I really like that they're all dressed differently, but also, similarly enough in case of characters that I'm assuming are related to each other. Like, we have the little girl who's the main character of this story. She's got a little school uniform on, and she's got her hand on her hip, showing some sass. I love her hat. She has a little cat ear hat on. It is adorable. And then standing next to her, I'm going to assume that's her father, because his jeans are made out of the same color that her jacket is. And while she's wearing a plaid skirt, he's wearing a plaid shirt with a jacket and a red scarf. And then there's this other lady here dressed all in black with probably what ends up being a very warm coat on, reading a book. And then there's, like, the most detailed thing on here is this puppy dog, who is like this brown paper stuff that the little girl's skirt's made out of. And then he's got, like, some white detailing on him with a red collar. So I like the cover. It's simplistic, but it's different enough, with enough going on to lead your eye around the cover. Like, you would notice this, you wouldn't just kind of glance over it. To the back. On the eve of Christmas Eve, Madeline Alti-Mari, a 9-year-old aspiring jazz singer, is about to have the most extraordinary day and night of her life. On the same day, her 5th grade teacher, Serena Green, who's just moved home after a divorce, nervously awaits a dinner party that will reunite her with an old high school crush, afraid to hope that sparks might fly again. And across town at the Cat's Pajamas, Philadelphia's legendary jazz club owner Lorca discovers that his beloved haunt may have to close forever unless someone could find the money to save it. Over the course of one magical night, these 3 lost souls will search for love, music, and hope on the snow-covered streets of Philadelphia, and together they will discover life's endless possibilities. A vivacious, charming, and moving debut, 2 a.m. at the Cat's Pajamas, will capture your heart and have you laughing out loud. Named one of NPR's best books of 2014. Marie-Helene Bertino bops across Philadelphia like an alley cat on the run, energetic and wild. Her sentences are sharp and surprising, and her wonderful story is full of heart. There is funny poetry in the sound of loneliness, and Bertino has found it. Emma Straub, author of The Vacationers. Inventive, gorgeously written, and unforgettable. NPR. 2 a.m. at the Cat Pajamas won me over, heart and soul. Bertino has created one of the most winning and wonderful characters I've met in a long time. Kevin Wilson, New York Times bestselling author of The Family Fang. Delightful! This story has it all! Time Out New York. which I'm guessing is a journal or paper or something. Also, this very tiny picture of the author here on the back. And she has the most adorable puppy ever. He's so cute. It's a pity his portrait is tiny. Usually I would expect, to flip open the back cover and it be on the inside here, but no, she's got this little tiny portrait here on the back. Okay, so I'm actually going to be reading this a little differently than other Red Knot books, because this actually doesn't have chapters. So I'm going to read at least 30 pages, give or take, change of scene. So we'll see how this goes and if I can remember to stop. It is dark 7 a.m. on Christmas Eve. Snow flurries fall in the sky. Actors walking home from a cast party on Broad Street try to catch them on their tongues. The Inguine lands a flake on her hot cheek and erupts into a fit of laughter. In Fishtown, a nightmare trembles through the nose and paws of a dog snoozing under construction flats. The Rittenhouse Square fountain switches to life with a pronouncement of water, while Curtis Hall musicians, late for a final rehearsal, approgate through the park. So already, in the first paragraph, I have 2 words. I have no idea what they mean, though I have heard approgate before. The flurries somersault, reconsider, double back. The knifed alleys bear witness as they softly change their minds. Mrs. Rose Santiago, shawl knotted beneath her chin, uses a broom to convince them away from her stoop. They refuse to land. She sweeps uselessly at the air. In her room at the prow of her father's apartment, Madeline Altimari practices the shimmy. Shoulders, 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 in front of the mirror, so she can judge herself, face sharp with focus. It is the world's most serious shimmy. After 30 seconds, a flamingo-shaped timer trills and hops on its plastic legs. Madeline stops shimmying and rejoins a menthol 100 dozing in an ashtray on her vanity. Wait, so she's smoking? At 9 years old, she's smoking? She exhales. Again. On the record player, Blossom Dari says she's alive, she's awake, she's aware. Shoulders, shoulders, shoulders. After 30 seconds, the timer trills again. Madeline frowns at herself in the mirror. Terrible. On a list by the ashtray, she marks 1 minute next to the shimmy, followed by a pert C-. She drags on the cigarette. The other categories, singing, scales, guitar, are unmarked. Madeline is 2 days away from being 10, and apparently smokes like a motherfucker. She wears a clothespin on her nose and the uniform for St. Anthony of the Immaculate Heart, a maroon sweater over a gray jumper, over a gold shirt, over a training bra with lemon-colored stitching. Why are you wearing so much clothing? Thick maroon tights. She is number 3 in 5th grade height order lineups, behind Massey, whose spine is shaped like a question mark, and Susan, the daughter of ballerinas. She read somewhere a clothespin wore religiously will shrink her unignorable nose. She thinks the occasional glimmers she can see through her window are snow flurries. She has trouble spelling the word rhythm. She likes when people in movies go to see movies. She cannot understand why the dime is worth more than the fatter, wider nickel. She needs a haircut. Her favorite singer is Blossom Derry, and her favorite bass is upright. I don't even understand what that means. She spent the previous night dreaming of apples. She smokes Newport menthols from the carton her mother was smoking when she died the previous year. Okay. Eggs cuss and snap on the kitchen stove. I didn't realize eggs could swear. The unofficial rule of St. Anthony of the Immaculate Heart is that Madeline is never allowed to sing again, in church or at any assembly. Never, never, a whole page of nevers. Even though she had nothing to do with what happened at the previous year's winter assembly. Still, it is going to be a gold star day. She will suffer through Claire Kelly's singing in morning mass, the girls' nasal notes and pulsive P's filling the church with godless noise, spritzing the first row of pews with every heretical T. But then, in all capital letters, her class will be making caramel apples. Madeline has never had a caramel apple, and she wants to taste one more than she wants God's love. Yeah, and if you ever, voice that out loud, people are going to be very upset at you. Claire, the sound Madeline's toilet makes when it's dry? Is Claire a person? Or did you name your toilet sound? Madeline is forever adding water to its basin when it wails from the specific can she keeps under the sink. So you have your own toilet that you have to fill with water? Like a comet, a horrific afterthought, a roach darts down the wall. Its path follows indecipherable logic. Madeline screams in high C and crushes the cigarette. She pivots, rips a paper towel from the roll on her nightstand. The roach halts, teasing coordinates out of the air with its antenna. It senses her, and it is rendered paralyzed by options. Madeline closes her eyes, makes the sound of a train whistle on a prairie, and squeezes. Ninth Street Market roaches are full and round, like tomatoes. This one leaves a mark on the wall, but most of it gets flushed down the toilet. She scrubs her hands, breathes in and out. Every day more and more roaches. Every time she kills one, Madeline worries she's a bad person. Stop worrying, she instructs herself. It's time to sing. She changes the record and releases the clothespin from her nose. She locks eyes with herself in the mirror and waits for the music to start. Madeline sings. My name is Blossom. I was raised in a lion's den. One hand is perched on her hip while the other swings back and forth, keeping time. Tucked into the mirror of her vanity, a picture of her mother singing, one hand on her hip, the other swinging back and forth in time. Her mother was a dancer and singer whose voice could direct the mood of the room. My nightly occupation is stealing other women's men. After the cancer spread to her lymph nodes, Madeline's mother filled a receipt box with instructions on how to do various things she knew. She wouldn't be around to teach her how to make a fist, how to change a flat, how to write a thank you note for a gift you hate, how to be efficient. Whenever you're doing one thing, ask yourself, what else could I be doing? On one receipt card, Madeline's mother listed the rules of singing. The number one rule, know yourself. Madeline knows she frowns on the silence between lines. She knows if she straightens her spine, she can hit more notes than if she hunches. She knows she makes up in full throatiness what she lacks in technical ability. She knows how to harmonize with anything, with someone talking. That harmony is what melody carries in its pocket. She can burrow into a line of music and search out unexpected melodies. She can scat, which isn't like pooping in the toilet. It's an actual way of making sounds and a beat. She knows she scats better if she has eaten a light breakfast. She knows an empty orb hovers inside her, near where the ovaries are drawn on the fold-out in her health textbook, the diaphragm. In the diaphragm, the weather is always 70 degrees and sunny. Unable to be shaken even when she shakes, Madeline has trained herself to, when she falters on a high note, clasp the reins of her diaphragm and gather. The song is over. In her flamingo notebook, 'cause she really likes flamingos, Madeline marks Blossom's Blues next to singing. The scatting was flat, but had soul. B-, she writes. The eggs are ready. She slides them onto a plate and adds a square of toast and a spoonful of jam. She holds her breath as she steps into her father's bedroom. He is sleeping, his back toward her. She clears medicine bottles and ashtray, a half-empty glass of water, to make space for the plate on his dresser. Normally, she leaves his breakfast and skedaddles. However, this morning she wants to feel close to something. She places her hand on his arm. It moves up and down in sleep. Madeline breathes in and out in time. "Eggs," she whispers. In her bedroom, she peers through the curtains to confirm that the glimmers are flurries. Using mittens, boots, a scarf, and an umbrella, Madeline turns herself into a warm, dry house. Because being with her dad wasn't a warm, dry house? Oh, you mean she got ready to go outside. I'm sorry, the terminology threw me off, and so I was like, what the fuck? 7 a.m. In the back bedroom of the Kelly family's row home, Claire Kelly plats her second perfect braid. She administers advice to her little sister, who sits on the bed, transfixed. Claire is proud of herself for allowing Alyssa to pal around. She can learn from Claire's mistakes, not that there have been many, and her achievements, which have been plentiful, praise God. Student of the Week, Month, Year certificates pose on her wall. Claire finishes the braid with a pink barrette and admires herself. The barrettes will reflect the light of St. Anthony's stained glass when Father Gary announces, "Claire Kelly will now lead us in the Reposal Song." She will step touch to the foot of the altar under the worshipful gazes of her classmates, step touch to genuflect at the statue of Mary, making full stops on her forehead, breastplate, left collarbone, right collarbone, step touch to the microphone. Claire Kelly never has shark fins when she combs her hair into a ponytail, and her braids always part diplomatically. I don't know what shark fins mean, but okay. Her mother gazes at her daughters from the doorway. Time to go to school. Claire is proud of herself for being the kind of daughter who doesn't rebel against her parents, even when they told her she was having a little sister, after they'd promised she'd be an only child. She could have answered garbage when they pointed to her mother's swollen belly and asked what she thought was in there. But did she say garbage, or a stocking of poop, or a lizard? No. Claire Kelly said, "My little sister," taking care to furbish little with an adorable slur. "So you sound like an asshole." Claire helps Alyssa into her backpack before donning her own. The Kelly girls file down the carpeted stairs, past the makeshift bar with a sign that reads Kelly's Pub, to where their father awaits, cheek thrust out in anticipation of each girl's kiss. Every day this kiss, then the short city walk to school. Claire, then Alyssa plants one on Dad's smooth cheek, and Mom opens the door. Flurries fall in the halo of the streetlights. Claire elbows Alyssa out of the way. She wants to be first into the snow wonderful world. It is her last conscious thought before being struck by a speeding bicyclist. How tragic. Claire is hurled against the brightening sky by the force of the handlebars against her thigh. The rider, sliding on his side, meets her falling figure against the base of an electric pole, as if they planned. Alyssa's screaming hits invariable notes. What ring that little girl has. 7:15 a.m. Café Santiago comprises the bottom level of a two-story aggressively flowered box building on 9th Street. The store fits a table with 8 chairs and 3 display cases selling sweets and prepared foods that vary daily depending on Miss Santiago's moods. Christmas cacti bloom in empty gravy cans on the window sills. Above the counter hangs a life-size portrait of Miss Santiago's late husband, Daniel. Miss Santiago lives on the 2nd floor with her dog, Pedro, who is currently on Christmas Eve missing. She stands behind the counter feeding sausage mixture into a casing machine, coaxing out smooth links from the other side. The shop smells like fennel, the cold, and coffee. Serena Green, 5th grade art teacher at St. Anthony of the Immaculate Heart, peers into a display case weighing the merits of 3 different kinds of caramel. She sways to the instrumental jazz playing in the cafe's speakers and points to a pile of stately cubes. "Would you say this caramel is sweet or more chalky?" "Sweet," says Miss Santiago. "That would be good for Brina, but not for the other Brina," Serena says. "How many do you need?" "Only 1, I suppose, but it's a popular name. We call one Brie to keep them straight." "How many," Miss Santiago says, "kinds of caramel?" Serena grimaces. "My brain's not working today. I looked for my keys for 10 minutes. They were in my hand." "Must be love." "Ha!" Serena cries. Miss Santiago's elbow startles a stack of coffee filters. She stoops to collect them. "I don't know how many kinds I need," Serena says. "I have 24 students. Leah is allergic to everything, and Duke is diabetic. He'd turn red if he ate a caramel apple, become unresponsive and die." Miss Santiago blinks. "We don't want that. Which caramel would you use?" "Medium dark." "Fine." Serena nods. It is her first year back in her hometown since high school, summoned by her mother's death and the aching blank page that follows divorce. She counteracts the feeling of being a failure by plunging into every task like a happy doe into brush. Today, these caramels. Last night, spelling each of her students' names in glitter on the brims of 24 Santa hats. £1, Miss Santiago says. £1.50. Serena's phone begins its embarrassing call at the bottom of her purse. Wonderful. She roots through her bag, finds what she thinks is her phone, and shows it to herself. Calculator. She paws through tissues, a sewing kit, her wallet, pipe cleaners. Pipe cleaners? A parking voucher from a crochet class she tried, where she made a tote bag, this tote bag, out of old t-shirts. It is kicky, but contains too many caverns. The song continues its assault, then, at last, her phone. Her grade partner is calling, a woman who finds no situation over which she can't become frantic. Serena dumps the call into voicemail. The bells of the door clatter. Georgia McGlynn enters from the dark, shaking snowflakes from her coat. Serena and Georgia, who everyone calls Georgie, went to high school together. "Picking up a pie for tonight," Georgie says, with an apologetic air, as if she needs a reason to be in the shop at this hour. This cues Miss Santiago, who disappears into the back. "Pie is," Serena says. The women look in different directions. No radio plays. The street hovers between night and dawn. This is the second time they've run into each other in the neighborhood, both times marked by stammering and adamant friendliness. "Key lime," says Georgie. "Wonderful. You should come." Georgie's volume frightens both of them. It's the old gang. Serena has never been part of a gang. "Tonight," she says, then remembers Georgie has already said tonight. A forgotten flurry announces itself on the top of her head. It burns wet. It burns wet. "I can't tonight." "You must." Georgie's tone is panicked. "They would love to see you, Michael, Ben." Miss Santiago returns with the pie. "You don't want this bag of potatoes hanging around," Serena says. The room's silence doubles down. Serena has no idea why. In the presence of this ex-punk queen from high school, she is compelled to insult herself. Bundling the pie, Miss Santiago tisks. "You're not a bag of potatoes," Georgie says. "Is that Wonderwall?" Serena searches the bag again. This time it's Macross. Her ex-husband. Must be called Serena Day, she jokes, dumping the call into voicemail. Georgie wasn't present for the other phone call, she realizes, so the joke makes no sense, and Serena now seems like a girl who rejoices upon receiving any communication from the outside world, which you apparently don't answer to get yourself out of awkward situations. Whatever. "Key lime." Miss Santiago passes it over the counter, and Georgie pays. She pulls a card from her wallet and hands it to Serena. "Call if you change your mind." She bells into the street, pie in hand. Serena says £2. Miss Antigua weighs and bags the caramel. He paused for the length of a sock in the jaw before Ben's name. On the sidewalk outside the shop, a mechanical carousel horse leaps to nowhere. "What's the deal with that horse?" she says. Miss Antigua looks up from the scale, her face still arranged in an expression of scrutiny. "The deal? Serena's grade partner is calling again," she answers. "Claire Kelly has been attacked by a biker." Serena apologizes to Miss Antigua with her eyes, gathers her bag of caramels, and slips outside. Flurry second-guesses through the alleys. Is she dead? She's at the hospital now, poor lamb. I called Principal Randall's. We need to find a replacement to sing at this morning's mass. But who? When she sings, it's like God is hugging you. Serena supports her bags on the carousel horse and rolls her eyes. What carousel horse? I don't understand. Her opinion on God: you work your side of the street, I'll work mine. She mentally sorts her students for a singer. The twins, James and Jacob, two variations on the same, dull boy. Brianna, the other Brianna, Maxwell, Devon, Mackenzie, a classroom of girls angling for a future in swimsuit modeling. Okay. Maybe don't name your kid on an empty stomach. Her mind's eye rests on Madeline, a hastily combed little girl in the third row. She recalls some teacher's lounge gossip, Madeline assembly singing. "What about Madeline?" she said. "Good Lord, no." Her grade partner chortles. "She sang last year, but it was unpleasant. I doubt the principal thinks of that day fondly." "She was that bad?" "Did I say she was bad?" the woman says. "Things happened. If we need a singer, she's all I have," Serena says. "She probably won't want to sing after what happened." "What happened? It was unpleasant. Let's leave it at that." Serena freshens her tone. "I could ask her." "You could." "I will." Serena hangs up. So, between them, the woman waved goodbye. Serena mouths the words, "Thank you." "My pleasure," Miss Antigua says, at full volume. You can hear through the window, Serena realizes. Another stunning miscalculation on her part. 7:30 a.m. In Fishtown, beneath a pile of construction flats, Pedro the dog launches out of a nightmare. The bear that chased him becomes an advertisement pasted to the bottom of a box. A tax attorney with reasonable rates. Pedro is an open-air pooch, not prone to evenings at home. His joints are nimble and his snout superb. He spends the previous night following the scent of a... In case you don't know, this is another name for a female dog. He spent the previous night following the scent of a bitch, pink notes and hydrangea and dung. The pursuit led him out of the meat and coffee smells of his neighborhood to the minty trash of Fishtown. Flirting around the periphery of his brain is an idea both completely vivid and at the same time so malleable that it is not only an image but a hope. When he moves from one street to the next, he feels he is moving more towards himself. He is lonely and knows he is lonely. He is in love but is not sure with whom. As the dog awakens, the city awakens, crust on its windshields and hungry. Snorting plumes of frustration in the harbor, scratching its traffic on the expressway, bone cold and grouchy, from the toes of its stadiums to the strands of its L. One by one, each main-line town revs its city-bound trains. Against the light of dawn, their track lamps are as worthless as rich girls. "Good morning," the city says. "Fuck you." The dog does not consider himself lost. Though several neighborhoods away, his person's worry manifests in food prep. Fat sausage and sweet bread. The florid sidewalk dampens his pause as he sniffs around a fire hydrant. Her, a street vent. Her, the trunk of a tree that in warmer months brags cherry blossoms. Her, a stretch of fog-colored siding. Then a blunt interruption. The cement steps of the Red Lion Diner. Finishes his breakfast. This final bite, the corner of toast dipped in a bit of ketchup, piled with the last of the eggs, is the culmination of 10 minutes of planning. Napkin dispensers on the counter, gorge gleaming birds. He chews 30 times, gives up after 16, dabs his mouth with the napkin, and with a succulent gesture signals for the check. The waitress, who had to promise him twice that she understood what dry meant, watches a television that hangs in the corner. A famous actress is coming to town. The waitress does not see Len's gesture, or hear the whistle he adds when he performs it again. She is officiating the marriage of 2 bottles of ketchup, overturning one and balancing it on the mouth of the other so it can empty its shit. How elegant of you. The man whistles again. The waitress turns around and in one fluid motion replaces his plate with the check. It strikes Len, still enjoying the slide of egg bread ketchup down his throat, that the waitress and the actress have physical traits in common. If the waitress lost 20 pounds and straightened her hair, she could be the actress's fatter, less attractive cousin. Len unfolds his wallet and counts out bills. The waitress doesn't hide her interest in the badge and picture in his wallet. A Sears shot of Margaret holding their alarmed-looking son. Your wife, she says. X. Len flips the wallet shut. The cat's pajamas is on this block, right? Next block. This man has rejected her niceties, so the waitress returns to a glare. Not open this early, though. They'll open for me. Len forces a laugh. Sorry, Mr. President. You look like her. He counts out a tip. That actress? Nah, she says. Change, he reminds her. She rings him up and deposits the change onto his palm. Good luck with Orca. Pardon? Cat's pajamas, right? She turns her attention back to the television. Outside, Len unrolls a stick of gum from a pack he keeps in his breast pocket. He's accustomed to people not liking him. The waitress, everyone in the Boston precinct he left behind, and probably whoever this club owner is whose day he's about to ruin. The morning feels scrapped clean. He folds the wrapper into a neat square and tosses it into a nearby trash can. He knows the numbers on his license plate add up to 14. He knows the latch on his belt is centered because he has checked twice. A dog sniffing a newspaper stand notices him. Perfect flakes twitch in his whiskers. Hello, Pooch, Len says. The dog finds nothing it needs in the figure of Len Thomas and goes back to searching. 8 a.m. The only sojourn Madeline is permitted to make alone is the half-block walk to Café Santiago every morning to eat her breakfast. It is one of the many rules that Snap frames around her newly motherless life. No alleys, no sleepovers, no going anywhere except Santiago's after school. Don't you mean before school for breakfast? Her apartment complex is shaped like a horseshoe. Her father's apartment is on the fullest swell of the round. In the center stands a half-hearted fountain that has surrendered to time and inattention. Madeline marches past it, though the arch that leads to the street, past the store of stained-glass lamps, a line of dancers, their jeweled heads bow, through the cobbled alley. Screw off, rules. To the blue carousel horse in front of Café Santiago. She rests her mittened hand on the horse's saddle. Hello, horse, she whispers. Madeline can feel its yearning to go up and down, its hooves frozen in mid-gallop. Slipping a quarter into its rusted change box would elicit nothing but a lost quarter. It's busted, marooned, and affixed to the sidewalk by an indiscreet pole, with no carnival for miles and no equine company. But Madeline loves the horse, and saying good morning to it is one of her traditions. Skipping it would feel as uncomfortable as an incorrectly buttoned coat. Inside the shop, Madeline unlayers her outer garments by the door. Miss Santiago fries sausage behind the counter. The cafe is filled with the pleasant crackling of a vinyl LP. one on the table, a stack of chocolate chip pancakes, a cup of black coffee, and the newspaper open to the entertainment section. Madeline delivers a kiss to Miss Santiago's cheek and sits. Miss Santiago is a lumpy woman in a state of continuous fluster. Most of the business of her face is conducted on the top half. Forehead, mournful eyes, and tiny nose lined up in short order. Her mouth, dime-sized, is usually arranged in a surprised purse, giving her the effect of a holiday cherub, the light-up kind currently decorating the neighborhood's abreviate yards. Miss Santiago evaluates all situations through the prism of her late husband Daniel's likes and dislikes. Daniel liked good posture, ginger snaps, and aloe plants. To Miss Santiago, a good world is straight posture, ginger snaps, and aloe plants. Your teacher was just in buying caramel, she says. Madeline swings her legs. We're making caramel apples today. I've never had one. Bring the fork to your mouth, dear, not the mouth to the fork. Pedro is still missing. The last time Frank down the street called to say he was eating from the trash. Stop swinging your legs. Why would he eat scraps when he has every kind of food he could want here? Madeline stills her legs and brings the fork to her mouth. She cuts her pancakes into equal-sized pieces. On the corner of the shop, a briefer stack of pancakes sits in a bowl marked Pedro. He'll have to stay in the house when he gets back. This will give him anxiety attacks, but it's for his own good. Miss Santiago slides a sausage link into a pan of quivering grease. Maybe it's time he started eating canine food. What about a leash? Miss Santiago snorts and gives the pan a shake. He'll die on a leash. She brightens with a new thought. Madeline, it is almost your birthday. Who should we invite to your birthday dinner? Madeline pretends the article she is reading is the most important article in the world. No, thank you. You can't no thank you your birthday. You no thank you'd your last birthday. That's different. Miss Santiago wags a tub of sausage at her. I'm old and allowed to ignore whatever I want, like time. How about Sandra? Sandra is Miss Santiago's sister, a retired reading specialist and paraplegic who tests Madeline's aptitude by having her read Harlequin romances aloud. Madeline doesn't answer. What about Jill from school? I hate Jill from school. Miss Santiago makes the tisking sound that means she's offended and only half listening. Where did this hate come from? Your mother loved everything. Like what? Madeline says. This is her second favorite game. Flamingo's your father. When people slipped. Not when they would fall outright and get hurt. When they would lose their footing for a second. She laughed so hard that she turned purple. Madeline frowns. I already know those. You ask every day, dear, Miss Santiago says. It has been a year and a half since Madeline lost her mother, and she has been living more or less alone. Her father owned several businesses in the city, among them a celebrated cheese store in the 9th Street Market, but hasn't so much as sniffed a will of Roquefort since his wife's death. He stays in his room, listening to her favorite records. Not even the sound of his daughter calling his name can rouse him as each day passes seasonlessly by. Madeline knows she will only be getting a Christmas birthday present from Miss Santiago, and it will likely be a knit vest with a Pedro on it. Well, Pedro will receive a knit vest with a Madeline on it. I don't want a party, she says, and that's that. I promised your mother, and that's that. Miss Santiago shrugs. Madeline shrugs. Miss Santiago looks outside and gives a sudden wave. The McCormicks are here. Get your things. Madeline stacks her plates in the silver sink. She presses her chin into Miss Santiago's elbow as the woman slices the brown sausage into medallions. Then she relayers coat, scarf, hat by the door. Outside, she exchanges vague haze with Jill McCormick and her 2 older brothers. Together the children boot past the carousel horse. Goodbye, horse. Back down the alley, through the back doors of the bread store, clothes, earth smells. The fish shop, boxes on boxes stacked on boxes. The cooking store, a worker sitting on a crate peels a potato, cigarette balanced on his lip, and through another alley until they arrive at the immortal realization of St. Anthony's. St. Anthony of the Immaculate Heart's schoolyard, the size of a football field, is shaped like an hourglass. On the top half, what time you have left, grades K through 4 double Dutch and hopscotch. On the bottom, what time you have lost, grades 5 to 8 hang in slackjaw clots, digging fingernails into their pimples. The middle belt section acts as repost for teachers who hand off whistles, balls, warnings, and gossip before diving back in. Row homes, each bearing 5 families, border the field. Every morning out of these crowded brick houses emerge the sorriest kids in the world, yawning into maroon V-necks, sneering at each other to get off, stop it, find the cat, stop doing that to the cat, shut up, leave it, give it back. The proposition of the yard is conducted on the upward slant, so that children going to school can climb from their cruddy homes, with plenty of time to appreciate the magnitude of the church and school. Check me out, the building says. This is what happens for those who pray. At the end of each learning day, the school disciplines the children back to their cruddy homes, quick as gravity. Here is Madeline on the day of the caramel apple, blending in with the kids as they trudge to the schoolyard to engage in a perfunctory morning recess. Madeline prefers to spend this and every recess alone, singing scales under her breath, walking laps up and down the parking lot. Madeline has no friends, not because she contains a tender grace that 5th graders detect and loathe, not because she has a natural ability that points her starward through, though she does. Madeline has no friends because she's a jerk. Look alive, bubble butt, she says to Marty Welsh, who was dawdling at the pencil sharpener. That his parents had divorced the week before did not matter to Madeline. An absent father doesn't give you the right to sharpen your pencil for like half an hour. This is what Madeline said to Jill McCormick, darting between her brothers, who swat at her, on the occasion of Jill's upteenth attempt to befriend her. Your clinginess is embarrassing. Madeline had one friend, Emily, a broad-shouldered ice skater who wound up at St. Anthony's as the result of a clerical mistake. Once, Madeline watched her make a series of circles on an ice rink. On solid ground, Emily still walked as if negotiating with a silver blade. Her parents moved to Canada so she could live closer to ice. Not before she taught Madeline every curse word she knew in the girls' bathroom on her last day, with reverence. Shit, cunt, piss, bitch. Madeline uses these words when one of her classmates tries to hang around, as in, get your piss cunt out of my creamy fucking way. Which means you have no idea how to actually use these swear words. You're just doing it because you think it's cool. There was a reprieve in her isolation in the weeks following her mother's death, when Madeline, polite with tragedy, allowed Jill to pal around. It wasn't long before she regained her wits and shooed her away. Even jerks have mothers who die. Into the thoughts of every playing child careens the clanging of an oversized bell, rung with gusto by Principal Randalls. The children line up according to grade and height. Some of the older ones take their time. Principal Randalls eyes these delinquents and rings harder. She will ring and ring until she achieves order, until the kids standing close to her clamp their hands over their ears. Madeline is corralled into the line by her homeroom teacher, Miss Green. Finally, the ringing ends. A chrism of sweat shines on the principal's neck. Miss Green kneels next to Madeline. On the stage of Madeline's school-to-home world, Miss Green is the main player. Madeline has memorized every intonation of her teacher's voice, every possible way she wears her blunt, nut-colored hair, every time she has varied from her black sweater on black skirt wardrobe twice. Miss Green always smells like a tangerine, and Madeline likes that she never wears holiday-themed apparel like the other homeroom teachers, who today wears a holly leaf tracksuit. Miss Green keeps her voice low. Claire Kelly has been involved in an accident and won't be in today. What kind of accident? Madeline says. A serious one. Is she dead? She's not dead. Miss Green makes the expression that means that is a disrespectful question. I'd like you to sing Here I Am, Lord, at this morning's Mass. Has this been approved? Madeline doesn't clarify because she is daft or aggravating. She clarifies because she is a girl who has had things taken away. Even before her mother died, she was not a girl who assumed her train would come. Last year, for example, she delivered a perfect rendition of On Eagle's Wings, and because of the shit show that happened afterwards, she had to sit in detention for a week. Miss Green's smile falters. Approved. Madeline is overcome by the desire to cartwheel, which she overcomes. She wants to sing in church more than she wants a caramel apple. In the shadow of the building they pray. A shower before entering the house after the beach. Amend. Every other grade goes to their classrooms. The 5th grade follows Principal Randalls through the corridors. Church. 2 girls in behind Massey's confused spine. Madeline tries to control her flopping, lurching heart. Here I am, Lord. The lyrics batter Madeline's brain. All holiness and thank you, Saint Karma, for injuring that plaited kiss-ass. Claire Kelly. I will hold your people in my heart. Hit people. Hold, heart. Verbato done. Madeline's big chance. Time to knock it out of the park. Toots. Here I am, Lord. Check this fucking business out. 9 a.m. Jack Francis Lorca, owner of the Cat's Pajamas, and what are considered 2 of the finest ears in jazz, sits hunched on the side of a cot, staring into the uncurious dark. So dark he cannot tell if his eyes are open. Someone is knocking on the front door, or it is a residual dream sound, or a stray stone shaken loose from the rock of the Titanias. If it wants to be answered, Lorca thinks, it will have to come again. In the club's heyday, this room had been a kitchen, but now it is his office and makeshift sleeping quarters for the house musicians. Max Cubanista, band leader, and Grey Gus Stein, drummer, slumber on the floor by his feet. Sonny Vega, rhythm guitarist, and know-it-all, rumbles on his cot in the walk-in freezer. Christmas Street, faster, even in dreams, correcting someone's route across town. Loca has been sleeping here, nubbly peacoat rolled for a pillow, because his apartment without Luzia seemed dead. He does not remember particulars, but is certain the constellation of shot glasses arranged around the bodies of his friends played a role in the headache blooming at the base of his skull. He is a man of average height, not an attractive man, but striking. The 3 names tattooed on his right arm are Francis, Alexander, and Luzia. The guitar tattooed on his left arm is D'Angelo Snakehead, the same one that hangs over the bar like a prize swordfish. Lorca wears the same clothes from the previous day, black jeans and t-shirt, a narrow belt of fatigued leather. He bats at the wall for the switch that controls the overhead lamp and braces against the light. The nucleus of the room is a round, battered table. Lorca's father, Francis, the bar's original owner, had bought it, still new, for what he called family diners, and around it many jazz greats had eaten, played cards, out-fish-tailed each other. Now the table is covered with parts from the model plane Gary Gus had been negotiating with for weeks, its inner workings propped on empty spools of dry. Dry what, I don't know. The oven is stuffed with old set lists, a glass vase filled with picks. working and non-working amps, a trash bag marked threateningly Christmas. A woman's pearl-colored coat hangs over the back of a chair, too nice for the room. It's almost like a home. The knocking on the front door returns, insists. Lorca trudges shoeless through the darkened club. The rapping becomes more insistent. "I hear you," he tells it. He hopes it's his son, Alex, who left without saying goodbye the night before. But instead, a man in an unfortunate suit holds out a badge like an apology toward the peephole. His voice is close-shaven. "Mr. Lorca?" "We don't serve until noon," Lorca said. The man shifts from foot to foot. "Hello?" Lorca releases the chain and jolts the door open, revealing the cop and a scene of flurries. "Is it snowing?" Lorca says to no one. The cop consults the sky. Since dawn? Lorca pulls a pack of cigarettes from his back pocket and shakes one out. "In here it's always midnight. I guess you want to come in." He motions for the man to pass him, then follows him into the club. The club has a carved-out quality, like the caboose of a train. A knee-high step separates the room from the stage, where amid an argument of cables, Gary Gus's drum set sits charred. The stools lining the long oak bar are draped in unlit twinkle lights. Lorca recalls a boozy pre-dawn idea of hanging them. He has overturned chairs on only half the tables before quitting. He recalls to get sick in the men's bathroom. The Snakehead, a 1932 arch top with Waverly individual turners, is the club's beating heart. Lorca's father said he won it in an arm wrestling match, but this was one of his fishtails. He had saved for years to buy it. Next to his picture a sign reads, "All musicians are liars except you and me, and I'm not so sure about you." The back of the cop's collar is not fully folded over his tie. "I don't want to take up much of your time," he says. "Then don't." Lorca plugs the lights in. Ta-da! They go green, then red, then blue. "When's the last time we had a white Christmas?" "It's not likely to last." The cop extends his hand, and they shake. "When, Thomas?" He shows his badge again. Lorca nods toward it. "Jack Francis Lorca." The cop pulls a notebook from his blazer pocket. "I'm afraid we've gotten several calls about your club. Overcapacity, use of pyrotechnics, excessive smoke." "Where's Ronaldo?" "Normally they send him." Glenn scribbles into his notebook. "Ronaldo got promoted." "Good for him. Deserves it. Excessive smoke?" Lorca says. "The creme brulee torch?" The cop points to Gus's drums. The wrapped cymbals hang on blanket stands. A singed, licorice smell emanates from them. He wanted to see if every time he hit the cymbals, flames would explode, Lorca said. "I'll comment on the writing once I'm finished reading." "Did it work?" "Not like we thought it would," Lorca admits. The cop reads from his notebook. "Constant refusal to abide by the city's law of no smoking inside the premises." Lorca stubs out his cigarette in one of the bar's ashtrays. "I can't get used to that law. It was passed in 2007. Has it been that long? We're all getting old. Constant refusal to stop serving alcohol at 2 a.m. I stopped in last night around 3 and saw 50 or so people cheering on a drummer, dousing his drum set in lighter fluid. If you think about it," Lorca says, "it's funny." The cop's expression doesn't budge. "I'll tell Gus no more fires." "That's not all, Mr. Lorca. This property," he points to the garbage, bags, and stage, "is licensed as a bar, and a bar only. No one is legally allowed to use this property as a residence. How many people stay here every night, Mr. Lorca?" The shape of the cop's visit and the potential price tag form in Lorca's mind. For years, Ronaldo let them go on all of it. Being exposed as a residence would be thousands of dollars. As long as the boys stay sleeping in the back, he can bargain this cop down. He raises his hands as if guilty. "I've been crashing here," he says. "My girlfriend and I have hit upon hard times." The cop raises one eyebrow. "No one else?" Sonny emerges from the back room. Yeah, I kind of figured that was the thing that was going to happen. His hastily tied robe reveals his pale, hairless chest. A lit cigarette hangs from his lips. His slippers make hard scuffing sounds. He mutterly acknowledges Lynn as he passes. We got any eggs? We're out in the back. He checks the bar's fridge and straightens up, holding a carton of orange juice. Lorca says, This is Lynn Thomas. He's here because he's gotten several calls about our club. He turns to the cop. This is Sonny Vega. He's here because he has nowhere else to go. You look familiar, Sonny says. Who do we know? I doubt we have mutual friends. The cop affects a cool lean, but misses the bar with his elbow. That didn't make any sense. He tries again while Sonny smokes and watches. There's only two kinds of people in this city, Sonny says. Those who know each other and those who haven't figured out yet how they know each other. I'm from Boston, the cop says. Well, hell. Sonny gives a look to Lorca. I tried. Let's talk this out, Lorca says. I'll make eggs. Mr. Lorca, you've received 7 visits from Officer Reynolds. The time for talking is over. The cop flips the notebook shut and hands Lorca a citation, the color of emergency cones. Lorca scans it to locate the total. You're kidding. Sonny reads over his shoulder. Holy shit. You have 30 days to pay, the cop says, looking satisfied. I'll be coming every night to check that the city's ordinances are being respected. Another infraction and it's your bar. Lorca follows as the cop strides through the vestibule, jolts open the front door, and turns. The flurries have lost their ambition, but the visit seems to have emboldened him. Play by the rules, Mr. Lorca, or it's your bar. Something about this man's plumped-up face, the thought of pulling another T-shirt out of his duffel bag, the impending holiday calcifies in Lorca. Do you think this is fair, he says, coming into a club with a list of infractions and a fee that, let's be honest, there's very little chance I can come up with. That's not my choice, Lynn says. It's not your choice. Well, it's not. I'm not asking that. I'm asking if you think it's fair. As a truck crangs by, the cop waits for it to pass. Mr. Lorca, he stammers. Call me Jack, Lorca says. Only my friends call me Lorca. Lynn Thomas opens his mouth to speak, but Lorca shuts the door. Payne pauses him in the vestibule by the stack of phone books. Though he is only 40, some unkind rod is normally clanging against his wrists and knees. A woman in his inner ear canal holds a relentless intimacy, and he is always shaking his head to clear her. Lorca has never been a player, but can tell even in recordings whether a guitarist is well rested or angry. Where the piano is located in the studio, where he was when he was a little boy, his father would choose a piano key at random, and Lorca would call out the note correctly every time. Charged by this special right, his ears are virtuoso in shape. Well-formed lobes make lowercase j's against his sideburns, hurt, stubborn tangris. When Lorca is engaged in listening, and he is always listening, his eyes and mouth harden and conspire toward his sharp nose, making him appear cruel. Sonny sits at the bar, staring at the citation. Are we screwed? Lorca's hand fumbles on a lighter. It takes him 3 tries to get his cigarette lit. I'll call Uncle Ray for the money. You realize that's illegal, Sonny says about the cigarette. Everything's illegal. Where's Ronaldo when you need him? Lorca holds the citation up to the light, as if it might be counterfeit. The impossible total. Ronaldo got promoted, he says. Good for him, Sonny says. Deserves it. Lorca shakes his head. Lynn Thomas from Boston. You know what they say. Sonny pulls mournfully from the carton of orange juice. Never trust a man with 2 first names. I am heavily disappointed. Not only is that wordy as fuck and pointless in ways, but the writing is so purple prose. I picked this book to read because I thought it sounded neat. I love music. I don't remember much of anything I learned in middle school when I was in choir, but I love music. I love singing. I love just hearing music, being a part of music. It is a joy to me. And you'll often find me listening to some kind of radio as opposed to watching TV or anything else aside from reading. This book is all over the place, where we're following a dog and then a cop and then some other stuff is being said, and it's really like the writer is trying to be too witty. Too witty, in fact, that we're missing some words in a few places so that sentences, such as the one I said I'll be back to here in a minute, are messed up on. Like they're missing words and they're not even coherent and they don't make any sense. I can't recommend this book. I don't like this book. We're kind of getting somewhere, but I'm not sympathetic to any of these characters. Madeline doesn't have friends because Madeline's a jerk. Why would I like her? She's a dick. I don't like her. At all. I'm supposed to feel sympathy that this place is closing, 'cause they need money. But after reading what I just read, I don't feel sorry for them. I'm like, they've violated all kinds of ordinances. And then they're surprised that they're going to be closed in a month if they can't pay that money. All these characters are assholes or pointless. And I have no desire to keep reading. I am so disappointed. You have no idea how excited I was to read this book. I thought this would be a neat, fun tale, and instead, all I get is wordiness, characters I hate, and writing that sometimes doesn't even make sense because we're jumping around trying to look pretty and fancy and whimsical, I guess. I can't recommend this at all. I don't want to read any more of this. That sucks because I specifically got this book to review because I thought it would be awesome. That would be interesting and cool and lighthearted, and it'd be bringing like these people together into one place to create this wonderful, magical moment of showcasing talent and saving this place. You know, basically that magical moment where everything comes together and then you realize wishes come true. I don't care if their wishes come true because they're all dickbags. And yeah, I know Madeline is a little girl, and I can sympathize with her mother dying of cancer, and her dad being not there because he's overwhelmed in sadness. But as somebody who has been heavily bullied, as somebody who's been a 9-year-old little girl, I never acted like this. I never talked like this. And I never wished anything bad on people like they were dead. I think what would really help this book is if the writer had just stepped back and used normal sentence structure to write her book. I think that would have really, really helped a lot. I think also what would have helped a lot is if she narrowed it down to only a handful of characters. Instead of switching between a dog and blah 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 and this cop and this dude and this girl and this other little girl and all this other stuff, pick 3 people. 3. Have each one narrate a different chapter. If the Resident Evil books can do this, and they're based off video games, can take each character and make a cohesive story, and it flow very easily from, like, how many characters are in the first Resident Evil game? There's Jill Valentine, Rebecca Chambers, Chris Redfield, Barry Burton, Albert Wesker. That's 5 characters. And it manages to handle those 5 characters in a way that it doesn't get wordy, it doesn't get confusing, and I can follow every single character and what they're doing throughout the book. I don't understand why this book can't do that. I'm not recommending this book. If you want to read a book about people coming together to save something, you would probably be better off watching Tokyo Godfathers instead of reading this book. I'm so heartbroken that this was not the fun, lively adventure that I thought it was going to be. The opening with talking about the snowflakes, it's okay, but as you keep reading on the first page, even then, I'm just like, whoa there, we're describing things a little too much. Reading this book is like being described somebody having a cup of coffee, and I'm described in detail how that coffee was prepared, what kind of cup and tea plate the coffee came in, how the person who was served the coffee, then how much sugar and cream they put in their coffee, and then how they drunk it. Except that, make that a lot more choppy, and then throw in a bunch of pretty full words. And that's what this book is. It tries to be super fancy, but it ends up just being choppy. Not to mention, there's at least 2 sentences where it didn't even make sense because words are missing. You need to go and rewrite this so it makes sense. So I'm Caleb, and this has been Red Knot. Thank you for listening. Bye!